We don't use logic and reason enough around here. And I realize that it's, in this day and age, people are very emotional and make a lot of emotional arguments. And in making those emotional arguments, sometimes they miss some very thoughtful points. And I'm going to try now to make some very thoughtful points to you and for you about the issue of the Speaker of the House. Marjorie Taylor Greene has decided now to make her motion to oust him. I'm sorry, I'm sending an important note about this topic to someone. Okay. Now, Twitter's over capacity. There we go. Let's talk about this issue. I want to play for you, for example, Lauren Boebert. This is a clip of her talking to Manu Raju at CNN about ousting Speaker Johnson.
Support. So it makes no difference to me if it's Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker or Mike Johnson right now.
I don't think it makes him weaker. I mean, Mike's, he's under siege in a lot of different areas, and I think he feels that now.
Are you comfortable with Democrats voting to keep Michael Johnson in the speakership?
No, I'm not.
Why?
Because Hakeem Jeffries should be the Speaker.
That's Jamal Bowman at the end. Lauren Boebert, though, saying that it doesn't matter to me whether it's Hakeem Jeffries or Mike Johnson in charge of the House. This is the Speaker of the House asked about this.
First I've heard of it. Look, I have to do my job. We have to do what we believe to be the right thing. What the country needs right now is a functioning Congress. They need a Congress that works well, works together, and does not hamper its own ability to solve these problems. And so we saw what happened with the motion to vacate the last time. Congress was closed for 3 weeks. No one can afford for that to happen. And so we need people who are serious about the job here to continue to do that job and get it done. So I have to do what I believe is right every day and let the chips fall where they may.
I suspect a lot of you take Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert's position that it doesn't matter who's in charge, the Democrats are winning, so why bother? But that's an emotional reaction to you didn't like the Ukraine funding, or you wanted something with the border and you didn't get it. You don't always get your way. Let me just try to reasonably explain why you don't want this to succeed. The Republicans right now have a one-seat majority. You can say that the Democrats are winning, but you forgot about the discharge petition. You don't know what the discharge petition is, do you? So the Senate Ukraine package was bigger than what ultimately got done, and it didn't have the ban on TikTok in it. And in the House of Representatives, if 218 members sign a discharge petition on legislation that's come over from the Senate or their own legislation, it goes to the floor of the House. And the votes were there for the Senate bailout of Ukraine. And so Mike Johnson forced his package through, which didn't spend as much and also banned TikTok. And he got his passed. So they didn't spend as much as otherwise would have been spent. You missed that side of the argument because nobody pointed that out to you, that there were votes for the discharge position and it was going to pass. They had 218 votes. And Mike Johnson, as Speaker, does not have the power to stop a discharge petition. So it would have happened. So, yeah, you didn't get what you wanted, but what Mike Johnson allowed was actually less than what would have happened had he not intervened. But wait, there's more. What's the thing you guys always complain about with the Democrats versus the Republicans? You always say the Democrats fall in line and get stuff done. And Republicans are like herding cats. It's impossible. They never get along. Well, this is part of the difference. Democrats value the collective. Republicans value the individual. So Republicans have the Freedom Caucus, and they have the Republican Study Committee, and they have the Main Street Coalition. They have varieties of groups of moderate, liberal, and conservative, and very conservative Republicans. The Democrats have progressive groups, and they have the problem solvers, moderate Democrats. But at the end of the day, they all come together to advance and get a couple of inches, where Republicans tend to only want miles. If they can't get a mile, screw it, we're not going to do anything. So the Democrats collectively are more competent and able to get stuff done in the House, typically because they recognize we can get 3 inches even though we wanted a mile, whereas Republicans, they want a mile, and when they can't get it, they say, well, screw it, we're doing nothing. And then they bicker and fight with each other. So the Democrats would be more effective if Hakeem Jeffries became Speaker because they have something you've all missed. Marjorie Taylor Greene has forgotten about it. Lauren Boebert has forgotten about it. Matt Gaetz has forgotten about it. Reconciliation. Because of a divided Congress, Democrats haven't been able to use reconciliation this year. You put the Democrats in charge, you get reconciliation. Reconciliation bypasses the filibuster in the Senate. So the Democrats, the rule with reconciliation is twice a year, really once, but they've now finagled the rules to be able to do it twice. They can arrange a package in the Senate that cuts the deficit, is a financial spending package, and it only needs 50 votes because Kamala Harris is the tiebreaker. So if you oust Mike Johnson like Marjorie Taylor Greene wants, because you've decided there's no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats in leadership, you're going to see real quick the difference, because that's how they got the Inflation Reduction Act passed. That was actually their climate change bill. They did it under reconciliation, so they didn't need Republican votes, and it bypassed the filibuster. And Mike Johnson hasn't let that happen. You may not like him. You may think he's collaborating with the Democrats. You may think he's no better than the Democrats, but you need to exercise the imagination to ask yourself, what could the Democrats do if they were in charge that Mike Johnson is not letting them do? Mike Johnson is the guy standing at the bridge, Horatius at the gate, saying, who will stand on either hand and hold this bridge with me? And right now, everybody around him is trying to knife him, and he's the guy there saying, hey, you may not like what's getting through the gates right now, but you wait and watch what happens when I'm not here, because the Democrats will take advantage of it. They're dying for a unified position that they can use, and you can say, well, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, they'll stop them in the Senate. Do you really want to take that chance? Do you not think the Democrats could offer one of them something to be their legacy legislation so that when they leave the Senate, all of the media glorifies them and says they saved us from the GOP? Do you really want to take that chance? What's, I think, really interesting here is that Marjorie Taylor Greene bailed on the idea of ousting Johnson after funding Ukraine. She realized she couldn't get the votes, and the only thing Mike Johnson has done since then is put real points on the board for the GOP against anti-Semitism. He went to Columbia, was hurled invective by the left. He stood there and denounced anti-Semitism and denounced the campus protesters, and now Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to oust the guy? Is that a coincidence that he goes hard against anti-Semitism and Marjorie decides it's time to oust him? We live in a postmodern era where people put their emotion above reason. You're angry about what's happened in the House. All I'm asking you to do is you think, you have emotionally, you're not even thinking, you feel like the Democrats are winning. All I'm asking you to do is to think, not feel, but think about what Democrats could do with a majority and reconciliation of the Senate that they can't do because Mike Johnson's there blocking them. You feel like Mike Johnson should have opposed funding Ukraine, but you didn't even think about the discharge petition that the Democrats could have used to give Ukraine even more money and not have to deal with TikTok. You feel like he betrayed you, and you're not even looking at what happened with the discharge petition where the Democrats were going to give Ukraine even more money. You haven't heard Marjorie Taylor Greene tell you, have you, or Matt Gaetz or Lauren Boebert, and it was coming down the pike. The signatures were there. This is all an emotional reaction to you're not getting what you want. And here's the problem. You never do. Because you're confusing strategy and tactics. Marjorie Taylor Greene is confusing strategy and tactics. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't have a strategy to prevent the Democrats from becoming in charge because Marjorie Taylor Greene says she feels like they're already in charge because she didn't get her way. The Democrats are not in charge. The Republicans control the committees. The Republicans are in charge of the committees. You have a one-seat majority. Mike Johnson steps aside. Suddenly the Democrats won. Why? Mike Gallagher, don't forget, Mike Gallagher is gone now. The congressman from Wisconsin left the House early. He did so a week ago. Meanwhile, there was a special election in New York where the Democrats won the special election. So that's a one-seat majority for the House Republicans right now. Emotionally, you want people to know Mike Johnson's not your guy. So let's let the Democrats save him. And then we can blow everything we get from here on out that we don't like. We can say it's the Democrats who did it. It's Mike Johnson, the Democrat, who did it. It's petulance. It's postmodern emotion at play. Because you're not willing to give Johnson the credit for stopping a lot of stuff you don't like because you don't have the emotional intelligence to see it and to recognize it, Marjorie. We're just playing here. This isn't serious stuff. The Democrats will protect Mike Johnson, and all of you guys can say, well, he's a Democrat speaker now. If he's a Democratic speaker, he'd cobble together a coalition to push through a left-wing agenda that would get passed through the Senate on reconciliation, and he's not going to do that. But because that's not going to happen, you can give yourselves your talking point, pat on the back, that, he's the Democrats' problem. No, he's not our problem. Except he's saving you from a lot of stuff, and you don't want to give him credit because you're emotional children, Marjorie and Lauren and the rest of you doing this. You don't have the intellectual power to imagine how bad it would actually be. I know how bad it would actually be because I lived through the Democrats controlling Congress where they marched their way through just 2 years ago with an investment reduction or Inflation Reduction Act that had nothing to do with inflation and got a massive climate change package done and had Joe Manchin go along with it to get some of his preferred initiatives. You think they can't find something Joe Manchin would throw in to support so that Joe Manchin can have a legacy in the Senate and get something passed on reconciliation? Why don't you guys do this? Let Hakeem Jeffries be speaker, and then you can complain again while I tell you I told you so. Except it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because a majority of the Republicans and a majority of the Democrats are going to save Mike Johnson because nobody wants the chaos. So y'all can bellyache about it while actually you're being saved. It's like the kid who wants to jump off the cliff and his parents don't let him, and he complains that the parents didn't let him jump off the cliff because what might have been. Well, we know what would have happened had he jumped off the cliff. He would have died. But he thinks it would have been grand and glorious. He could have flown. And parents, of course, aren't going to let him jump off the cliff and fall to his death. And so he's going to have the what if I did. I just might could have flown, Mom and Dad. Well, thank God they didn't save his life, even if they probably want to throw him off the cliff. Sometimes conservatives can be their own worst enemies on this stuff. You get rid of Mike Johnson, you open the door to real Democratic control. You can convince yourself there's no difference between what's happening now and what would be happening then, but you all really know, not feel, but know that's not true because the Democrats are so much better at herding cats than the Republicans. Your problem right now is we lost a lot of elections we could have won because we had crap candidates, so we don't have a big majority. And now you want to sacrifice the majority for a minority and give Democrats the ability to set an agenda they can't now set. That's insanity. It's irresponsible, and thank God it's going to lose.